All right, hi YouTube, hello podcast, hello Instagram, and of course, hello Facebook as well. Welcome to Startup Business Q&A. This is episode 121, as they would say in the States. And this is about the first steps for your startups. I'm really excited that we're covering this. This is when it comes up loads, and it's kind of, it would be intuitive to do this one, right? So it made sense to cover this the subject area simply because all of these questions are about first steps, because it is about a startup business. And in the 120 weeks that we've done this up until this week, all of those questions really are applicable to this kind of line of questioning. So hi everyone for jumping in, and thanks very much for jumping in. I think what I'm really interested in is looking at where the questions come from in terms of, you know, your angles on this. For some people, it's really important to make sure that they are focusing on certain things, maybe financing. Other people, it's more motivation. And for everyone, it's different, I suppose. But it is interesting that the questions come from completely different angles on what a first set of questions should be, or first set of steps should be for a startup. Do bear with me, all platforms except Facebook, because Facebook's decided to be a bit rubbish. So I'm just going to hop online again, and you see, people ask me about how do you prepare to make sure if things go wrong, you're ready. I do things like I copy and paste the subject heading for my live streams, because what that means is when stuff like this happens and it decides to just kill itself and go offline, you can hop back on and then copy and paste straight in. Little things like that I learned over 120 odd weeks, ways to get back on. So we're live now, I think, on Facebook. Hello, thanks for bearing with me, everyone else. So we're looking at first steps in your startup today, and I've got questions here, thanks for sending them in, about particular things to look out for, to work on. I think this is going to be really valuable, because this is an area that people can really get stuff off of their chest. So hi Ian, thanks for jumping in. If you are in the Entrepreneur Business group on Facebook, then do check out Ian Tisker's speech. He's starting or kicking off the first round of people talking about tips that have helped their success in entrepreneurship. So he's talking in 1 hour, I believe. So that will be 10 a.m. No, sorry, 9 a.m. I don't know. 10 a.m. I think it is EST he's speaking. If you could post in here actually on Facebook, Ian, when you're speaking, that'd be great. If you're not in the group, go to Facebook and search for Entrepreneur Business Group. There's 3,500 people there, all like you guys, and that will be a great set of talks. Every single day for the next 10, 12 days, there'll be people speaking each day about 3 tips that have helped them. Latanya Riggs, hello on Facebook as well. Thanks for joining us. You are going to be speaking, I think, a few days' time, so you threw your hat in the ring. And yes, and Ian Tisker's just confirmed 10 a.m. EST. So I believe that's in a couple of hours from now. You will be going live on Facebook. So excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So let's get into it. The first steps in your startup. And by the way, there's a couple of notices I'll bring up in a bit as well, plus some exciting news about an Alexa skill. Ooh, it's a new project. Anyway, so first question comes in. Actually, this person's asked 4 questions, but why not? So Danny Battisil has asked, is it important, Richard, to have branding and logos in place before you start? Morning, Christine. Hello, thanks very much for joining in. And absolutely, this is a huge question. And it's not about just logos and branding, because this question represents so many other questions that are very similar. Is it important to have branding and logos in place before you start your business? A branding specialist, a logo designer would obviously say yes. I feel, as a practitioner of building startups and for a coach to those who've done the same, that the thing that often gets in people's way is stuff that isn't fundamental to getting oxygen into the company at the beginning. And remember my background. So if you go back 15, 16 years, it's always been the sales and commercial side, because I know that that's what gives, as I say, oxygen to the company. So my view is really simple. I feel that the logo and the branding doesn't matter in any way in comparison to getting customers engaged, building that community, and actually work on the process of getting sales through the door. Is it important? Of course it's important, but as important? No. The most important thing in your business and at the start is getting customers. And if you don't have customers because you don't have a product, then you need to create an MVP. MVP is not a most valuable player, it's a minimum viable product. Simply put, if you can get a product that works, a prototype for beta testers, my view is that's perfect, because you can start the process of rolling it out, getting people giving you feedback, and generating some early pre-sales or some early kind of, even if it's discounted because it's a beta product, getting some kind of cash in the door. Logos. If I look at the first online product other than consulting that I offered was a course, I reckon it was 8 seconds that it took to build the logo. It was go on Canva, pick a font I liked, and I was like, that one's all right. Red on black, that looks cool. And I just typed it and then downloaded it, done. What you need to remember is that unless you're in a fashion house, perhaps, even then, I mean, the logo just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because your problem isn't the quality of a logo. That's a fundamental that's not going to put your business into orbit. No business suddenly goes into orbit or goes viral or suddenly takes with an audience as a fledgling business in its early weeks because of its logo. Its problem that it needs to overcome is obscurity. It's as simple as that. If you look at Facebook, it's a lowercase white F. That's it. The logo's not particularly epic. Amazon, it's quite clever. It's the A to Z with the smile and also the point, and it's just, but it's nothing outright, it's not deep and meaningful or anything like that. It's kind of like, it's just the word Amazon, really. And that's not a reason why they started making money. It's the proposition that they had. So it is important to think about doing those, but I would be building a logo if I had spare 3 minutes at the end of the day when I'm exhausted and I don't need to use much cerebral energy. And logo designers were like, whoa, that's ridiculous. The logo is everything. I don't believe it is. I feel that what you need to have is consistency. So if you're going to create a logo, it's going to have to be one that you stick on for a while, because you don't have to keep changing it. Otherwise, people are like, who's this new logo? I don't recognize it. You need to stick with it. But I think it's such a small consideration. Branding, it's just, consistency helps. And it's important to be mindful and have fair attention to detail. But look at it this way. If I've decided to build a business, unless I'm focused on branding or design or create as a creative agency or something like that, it's so not as important as getting the product out the door. Get ready to ship. Be ready to ship as soon as you can. My first online proposition other than consulting was this course, 8-Step Startup. It was 73 lessons and I had 6 ready. A logo I'd spent 8 seconds on. I was taking PayPal payments for it to start with because the website was still being built. And essentially, it was a glorified link to a playlist on YouTube. That's what people were buying. I recorded on YouTube and just embedded them on the site. And until then, I just sent people a link to the playlist, which was a closed, one that you couldn't find unless you had paid me, and I'd given you the link manually. That's a mess. That's not particularly good e-commerce. It's certainly not automated, but it worked and it got money coming in through the door, and that's the thing that mattered. So it's not, to answer your question specifically, because you said, is it important to have these in place before you start? Hell no, it is not. Unless it's a very rare set of circumstances where you are building, for instance, that kind of company where you're working as a media agency or something like that. Ian Tisker's written, I remember those days, look at you now. It was like 2015, which isn't that long ago, but that's a light year in terms of a startup. And I think it's interesting because I'd done consulting for many years, but this was something that I was like, oh, let's just start this new thing. And, and now life's changed quite a bit. But yeah, thanks. It's nice that you've followed. I think Ian Tisker's been here. It's been here since episode 1 of the Q&A as well, which would be interesting to dig out one day and have a watch. Danny's also asked, Richard, how do you go about settling on a niche market? Here's how I do it. I would focus on doing the stuff you like. That's it. Just do the stuff you want to do and build from there. When I first, if you take aside consulting, the first thing I built, business I built, other than consulting, because that's just me helping people as opposed to a business as such. The first startup I really built when I left a 9-to-5 was a Taekwondo academy. Why? Because I was really good at it and I quite liked it. So I just did that. Here's the reason why it doesn't matter. It's because I got myself on the pitch by doing something I wanted to do. So the reason why you do something you want to do is you're good at it, so that gives you confidence, and you enjoy it, so you keep doing it. If you're like, I've never done Forex trading before, so what I'll do, because I think it'd be cool to learn the Forex trading, is I'll just go and do that. And it's stupid, because what you're doing now is teaching yourself something you have no idea about and you don't know if you even like. Best thing to do is get on the pitch and leverage the thing you're quite into. And if you're into it, it will give you momentum to start with, that running start. You'll want to engage and do it. So the second reason why this is so important is because you don't know, you don't know what your niche is or what you're into until you're doing it. It's like if you play a game of football for the first time ever, you need to get on the pitch and kick the ball about to find out what position you're best at playing. Who knows if they're a goalkeeper? Who knows if they're a defender? Who knows if they're a striker? Who knows if they're not destined for the pitch and they hate football? You've got to go try it first. And what happens is you kick the ball about and you find your space. You end up actually getting quite used to it. For instance, for me, I would want to be a striker when I was a little boy, because that was all I ever did, because that's what everyone else wanted to be. They wanted to be the glamorous position. But then you play after a while, and I realized that my left foot was rubbish, like really bad. So my right foot was my best one, and I was really fast. So I was a right winger. I wasn't particularly good at striking, but I was great at seeing the game at a higher level. So I would just pick someone out and cross. I'm hardly David Beckham, but my point is I would be that guy. And I found that by being on the pitch. Simultaneously, when I started the Taekwondo school, I found very quickly, in fact, that yes, I'm really good at teaching Taekwondo because I'm really good at it, and I quite like teaching people. That's kind of a thread running through all of my businesses. However, the thing I really enjoyed the most wasn't the Taekwondo. It was actually running a business that happened to use Taekwondo as a device. So that's where I was like, actually, this may be a niche, but and over time I pivoted and evolved and ended up in a place that was like, this is just about building businesses and the marketing and sales and the thrill of closing a client, so closing a new student for my Taekwondo academy, was much more of a feeling of that I enjoyed than actually showing up and teaching. So, you know, there you go. That's how I kind of found my way. But the point is, I got on the pitch with someone I enjoyed and I went from there. So how do you go about settling on a niche market? Do something you're into first and work on the basis. You have to have this in mind. Work on the basis it will probably be wrong. No startup business plan, just start. It will probably be wrong. What that means is you'll probably need to pivot. More specifically, you will need to evolve and grow from there, for instance. So if that's the case, so just start. But you might as well start doing something that's fun for you. And settling on a niche, well, what resonates with you? I remember building and marketing a yoga school. I don't teach yoga, but I knew someone who did. So I was, as an entrepreneur does, I saw the opportunity. I knew someone who was a yoga teacher. And she said, I remember overhearing, she had a play date at our house with my daughter, or her son did rather. And she said, I just wish I could show up and teach yoga and then lock the door and go home and that'd be it. I wish people would just turn up and I just got paid. And I said, wow, hang on a sec. If I could run this all, build it, because that's the stuff I like, and you just show up, I pay you, you lock the door, you go home, would that be good? She's like, that's like music to my ears. So it was perfect. That was an opportunity for me to do something I love. But here's the thing about the niche. I remember having a call with her in this room actually and saying, who selfishly do you want to teach? And what she said right rather was, it feels really bad, but I like teaching this type of person. It was a very specific, I don't know if the gender mattered, but she said it was a very specific set of things. So age group, kind of demographic, but also she said, I want people who have no experience at all, because I don't want to, I'm a bit lacking confidence. I don't want to teach people who are good because I feel like I'd have imposter syndrome. So I was like, cool. So that's what we go for. So the niche should be selfish. And it spins back to what I was saying, like if you want to teach yoga to certain people, so do it. And in fact, that's how, Danny, I built my Taekwondo schools. Rather than have a come one, come all Taekwondo school, I had like 5 in the sense I had 5 different lessons. So I had 3 to 5 year olds. I had, no, 3 to 6 year olds, 7 to 14 year olds, adults. I even had a niche which was ladies only adults class. And I just separate them all up. And then after a while, I was like, I don't like teaching that niche. I'm going to bin that off. I don't like teaching that niche. I'm going to bin it off. And I ended up, again, by trying it all, I ended up going, actually, that's the one I really like teaching. And I stuck with that. That's as simple as that, really. So that's how you do it. Get on the pitch and try. And that's what I did. And yeah, and then so there's a comment here on Facebook from David Potts. That's such an honest assessment for her to have made about her aptitude as a teacher. It was amazing, because she said, I said, to be honest, David, it wasn't as simple as, hi, tell me who you want to teach. It took a bit of cajoling, and you may need to do this with yourself as well. But it was a lot of me saying, look, let's just be real. It goes no further. Be politically incorrect. Be completely sexist, if you like. Who is it that you want to teach? And she said, I want people who haven't got a clue. I want people, Richard, who are totally unhealthy and really unfit. Because I'm nervous. She said, because the thing is, she said, I love teaching yoga, but I haven't done it for years. She said, I know loads, but only relative to someone who knows nothing. Which is my definition of an expert, by the way. If you look at Monetize You, the course, someone recently wrote to me that this was a really profound moment for them when they realized that being an expert is a relative term. Okay. Arguably, I'm an expert in social media relative to my father, right? But arguably, I'm not an expert in social media relative to Gary Vaynerchuk, who runs a social media agency or whatever, creative agent, whatever it is. But so the point is that it's a relative term. And she was saying, I'm not an expert. I have, like, self-depreciating thing. And I said, the thing is, to people who know nothing, but who would like to learn yoga, you are all they need. Let's do, it was like, let's do a basics of yoga course, 6 weeks. And I said, for 45-minute lessons, you genuinely you could do, like, the first session, do like two poses and teach them how to breathe. The next lesson, you do a bit of a recap, then maybe another pose. Progress is what they're after, and be able to go away knowing something. And I was the same with my Taekwondo schools. When someone came in the door that was fresh and brand new, you don't have to teach them much, just a bit. And they walk away going, wow, that's practical stuff that's really great for me. And you're like, really? Kind of obvious, but actually for them it's really new. And so of course that becomes how you position yourself as an expert. So just want to shout out to everyone who's here. Hello everyone. So Carrie, Devon, Ian, Latanya, Brandy, David, Al, I've said Ian already, Devon I've said already, and Christine, hello. You're so good, man. Practical, applicable, simple and good. Thanks so much, Christine. So that's how I would do it. Vanu, hello, good day to you. Can everyone give me a shout for where you're based, by the way, at the moment? I just want to do a quick audit. I think that almost everyone here is in the States, actually, at the moment. There's never any UK representing. It's not like you're not up at this time of day, I suppose. But let me know where you're based. Let's do another question from Danny, because why not? And he said, Richard, when do you know if something isn't working for you and pivot towards something else? Such a hard question. It comes up a lot. The answer, I believe, is kind of by looking at it the other way around. What you need to understand is that typically you will want to look at the word, you will want to pivot before you need to pivot. So want is based on how you feel up here. Need is based on what the business is requiring. So what I'm saying here is that if you feel that something's not working, you will want to leave. You're like, it's not working. I haven't had any results on my monetized YouTube channel, and it's been 16 hours since I launched it. The problem is that you want to quit because you don't get the quick results straight away, but you need to continue. So what is difficult in this one is that you have to work out how long it will take with strong application of resource on your part to get to a point where you should be seeing some results for your efforts, not for what you want. Because what you want is to do minimal work. This is fact for everyone. You want to do minimal work and get massive output. But life's not like that because stuff happens. So what you need to do instead is focus on making sure that you put in sufficient for a sustained amount of time. And then say to yourself, you know, and it's relative. This is the thing, Danny. I mean, my Entrepreneur Business Live events that started 5 and a bit months ago, I was like, my pivot point, if I, you know, what would I stop doing them? Well, if I got to say 4 months, so that's 4 events, and no one's showing up, well, then I'll bin them off. Okay. But if I said after 1 month, if no one comes, I'll stop doing it. That doesn't make sense. Likewise, if I am building a hedge fund and I'm going to court people, like they did at BlackRock, for example, Stefan Schwartzman, get a load of funds, that's going to take me time. And I'm going to have to go through regulatory processes and all that kind of stuff. I can't say, well, if it's not all running by 2 months from now, or even 4 months from now, like Entrepreneur Business Live, well, then I'm stopping or quitting. Doesn't make sense. You have to kind of be relative, and that's just down to your intuition. But I suppose what I'm trying to say here is, on that initial point, is if you feel like you want to quit or pivot or change direction, usually the first time you feel that is an emotional reaction because you want to get out of it not going very well. So your job is to override that and push through, because you'll never know till you try, is what people say. What they really mean is you'll never know till you try and then push through, then fail and get hit in the face, then keep going a bit more, then run through several brick walls, and then get to a point where you're like, do you know what? It actually isn't working as well as it might. Now it's time to pivot. So you need to go through some pain, I suppose, is the point. But you should create some milestones for yourself at the start, which are open, of course, or subject to change, because you don't know what the road ahead is going to look like. So hopefully that makes sense and answers your question. Let's get a question from someone else here. So from Devon Scott, because I think you're online here today. Hello to you, Devon. Finding your audience. Some people play around until they find an audience or client profile they work best with. Others spend time being very intentional first and driving into that niche, even if there's resistance until they break ground. So both seem like something of a gamble. What has your experience been, and why would you recommend one over the other? So what we're talking about here, I suppose, is finding an audience, then going, or going and then building an audience as you go. And I think the organic second approach kind of makes sense. Have something as your kind of kernel or hub or device from which an audience can attach itself, or to which an audience can attach itself. For me, it was the startup space and the entrepreneur culture that was prevalent and kicking off a few years back, and like really kicking off online. But I do feel that by focusing disproportionately on the audience, engaging with them and so on, it makes life a lot easier moving forward. Always audience first if you can. Because what it's meant is that I am now in a great position where I can spin out something to my audience, which is already fairly warm in places, and get a result from them. The perfect example was on Saturday, I think it was. So I'm going to Geneva in Switzerland in a few weeks' time to speak on a panel. Hello, Jess. Nice to see you on Instagram. I was invited to speak on this panel for Catherine Darr. And it's a case of saying, look, Richard, there's a load of people coming, but we need more attendees. Can you help? And I thought, I think Kat's exact words were, look, I'm not getting the traction I should on LinkedIn. So if I could perhaps, if you could post something about it, would be really helpful. I posted on Saturday. Within 24 hours, there were over 10,000 views of that post, because I asked the network to help and share and things like that. It's like 150 comments and or 100 odd comments, and loads of likes and things as well, if that matters. But huge amount of traction with it. And I thought to myself, what that is me saying to myself, right now I need to ask for some help, and I've got an audience that's warm. I'll throw in an ask for help, and they just responded really well. I think it's a really important thing. When you have a warm audience, you can throw something in and it will take straight away. Entrepreneur Business Live USA sold another ticket last night. That's in January, and it was selling tickets before I even announced it. Because, simply put, it's got that traction from an audience. So I hope I'm answering the question here. I think that you shouldn't worry about being too intentional with diving into an audience to begin with if you don't have a product so much. But I do think that you should try and second guess with intelligence what your audience is likely to be in terms of demographic, Devon. You can pretty much be fairly accurate with thinking, like, who is it I should be targeting? So what I'm saying, I suppose, is, you know, if I'm looking at very first days, job one is start engaging with at least individuals manually about the world you're in, sharing and evangelizing, but also helping them. Just getting into their groups, into their conversations. And, you know, as it comes up, you then talk about the thing you're doing. Simultaneously, you know, you're building your product as well. I think that's really important. Some people are too intentional, I think, and it means that they're dropping the ball in other areas. Audience is important and engaging with them is important, but at the very first step, you need to build your MVP as well. So that's essential. I think you'll always be pivoting slightly, and over time, just like I mentioned earlier with the earlier question from Danny Battersill, you won't find your niche exactly until you find your niche, which is time spent doing it. So does that answer your question? Hopefully I'm articulating that enough. But I think it's a difficult one, but you need to go early. If I can say, the biggest mistake I see, in my opinion, is starting a business, which means building a product and not warming up any audience whatsoever. So not even documenting that you're building something. So the audience doesn't even exist. There is no audience yet because you're not engaged with anyone, but you're tinkering away in your garage building something. And what happens is, because you've got such huge obscurity, use all of your resource building something, and then when it's time to sell, you go, right, let's do some marketing. And I go, so I've wasted so much extra time. I would be spending, you know, 70% of my time building the product as soon as possible, and 30% in audience warming, rather than 100% on product first, then go to building the audience. It's just insane, because now you built your product, and now you're going to be spending a lot of time starting people from scratch when you could be pre-selling at that point. So I think it's worth doing. I really strongly believe you should be behind that. If you look at most companies that leverage marketing well, what they're doing is sharing the build as well as the end result. And I think that's a good way of kind of whetting appetites. Remember, if you read Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore, there's the bell curve, which is flattening out at the moment, but it's kind of the bell curve, which is how people adopt or buy your product. And the main thing to bear in mind is it's not that all people buy a mature product or well-known product. It's that there are always early adopters. I bought on pre-sale the first generation Amazon Alexa, as it turned off here, the Amazon Alexa, because I was into that kind of thing. Whereas some people will never buy it until, if we ever move to that point, they'll only buy if it's like you can't buy certain things unless you have one. So that's like people who bought a set-top box, for instance, or digital TV. Some people will never buy it unless they're forced to, because they switched off analog TV. And that happened several years back, and those people are like, okay, we're forced to, so we'll do it. Those people still have VHS players, probably, and recall it that way. But I think it's important to bear all this kind of thing in mind. Danny Patrick, everyone starts with a D today. I love it. So, Richard, what are the biggest pitfalls one might fall into when trying to get the ball rolling on your startup? Really glad this question came up. And for everyone, there'll be a different answer. But I think a bit more all-encompassing is this, that the biggest pitfalls will relate to you getting in your own way. Now, get out of your own way is a kind of a cute saying people have. What I really mean here is that there is often the biggest problem being that you have worry, a lack of confidence, a lack of belief, a lot of second guessing, possibly a knowledge gap, but things like that as all relates to you. Usually the product, talent, service, whatever it is you're developing is probably fine. It could probably sell really well, but the issue is you're not helping yourself, because the biggest pitfall is your confidence is lacking. Great examples being social media agencies who are not practitioners, and they're not, or they are practitioners in social media, but they don't do video, or they say they do video but only for the client, but they don't do their own video because they're too scared. And it's like you're massively, there's like these double standards everywhere. And I think what you need to do, I'm not saying you should do video, I am, if you're a social media agency, you should show that you know what you're doing. But my point is that the biggest pitfalls typically people fall into are, I don't believe this is going to work, nagging away inside their head, so don't try. And the words of the most marvelous person, Seth Godin, the king of marketing, in my opinion, you know, you need to ship. It's as simple as that. You need to ship. Work on the basis that failure is part of the course. If you're never failing, you're doing it wrong. Cute saying, which is what it means is you're not trying hard enough to be on the edge. And on the edge is where it's exciting, where people are interested in stuff. You want stuff to not work out. So that means you're testing enough. And I think that if you're looking to be safe, well, you know what? It's just not a good idea to start a business because it's not safe at all. The stats are heavily stacked against you in certain industries. And I think that it's important to remember that you need to go for it, and you have to have conviction that if there's one thing you do that you really have to do right or well, it is throw yourself at it. Anything half-assed just doesn't get anywhere. And I think the problem is that so many, they focus on the things that give them comfort, and that inherently can mean they actually end up doing really rather badly because they are nervous or second guess or play it safe or don't close. Or the worst I see so much, maybe it's because of my sensitivity to it, is they just don't sell. They just don't try and sell anything because it's a comfort zone to build something, maybe even share that it operates, but never try and ask to close anything, which is absurd because now you're out of oxygen. So, you know, it's usually, Danny, that the biggest pitfalls are just fear of it even being successful, and so you're being timid as a result. I get that some people are timid, but you need to go all in as much as you can. If you're nervous and you can't sell, you need to offer someone some equity who can sell then, or learn about how you're going to market a bit better. Or start the process of getting into conversations to practice. Sorry, it's part of it. And I just think it's important to understand that if it's ever your voice telling you, I don't know, I don't think this can work, and I don't this, I don't that, then that is something to try and ignore as much as you can. Throw yourself in, then you have time for that kind of dialogue. You know, it's very easy to say, well, the biggest pitfall is people spend too much time doing this or doing that. You know, in reality, it's never really any particular thing. Sure, people spend more money than they have. They take more time than they have. Most people don't apply themselves enough. Consistency is a cliche, but so true. I think one of the reasons why I've done well is that I don't think anyone is as consistent as I am. I for something that I think is working, I will stick at it and stick at it and stick at it, especially because I think it will get me somewhere. That's why you're watching week 121 of Startup Business Q&A. And I just think it's important to make sure you stick it out for long enough that some things take some time. But watch out for those things. Watch out for that little voice in your head going, oh, I don't know. And so you're being a little bit more beta than you need to. Throw yourself at it makes sense. I just want a couple of notices I want to add here. So firstly, if anyone knows anyone in Switzerland, in Geneva, ideally, but if not in Switzerland, do shout out to them that we're going to be, if you check it out on Eventbrite on the 6th of December in Geneva, there will be a panel on adoption and use of LinkedIn to build your brand. I believe I will be allowed to stream it live to the Facebook group. So to the Entrepreneur Business Group on Facebook, I'll be able to run a live stream of that. So ideally that will work really well. Give us a wave over on Instagram. Thanks very much for joining. Thanks to everyone on the podcast as well. If you want to check out previous podcasts, they are all on SoundCloud, but more usefully, if you go to therichardmoore.com, there's actually a drop down there now, and you can see them all nice and easy to get hold of them. Another point as well is that I'm rolling out soon a new series of content. What I'm going to be doing is touring well-known companies and asking them questions about how they help the entrepreneur and startup space. So in a couple of, in fact, next week on Thursday in London, I'll be visiting Facebook. And there's a number of other companies I've got lined up across the coming months. So I'm going to be visiting these companies directly. And there's a wonderful guy at Facebook I'm going to be meeting. I have a bit of an interview that I'll be sharing this content as well. But I think it's interesting because I'm sharing a lot of philosophies from those I speak to, as well as my own and my experience. But it'd be interesting to go to companies like this to find out from them, what their input is for people like you guys. So it starts with Facebook, and I should think probably the back end of next week. So the end, like Friday, Saturday, that's when I'll roll out the first interview with Facebook. That'd be good fun. So thumbs up or give me a heart or whatever if you think something that'd be useful. I have my eyes on Google as well when I'm over in the States. Is lined up too, and then there'll be a few others. A chap at Microsoft who works specifically with Skype for content creators is another target. I'll be in London too, so it should be good fun. A question I think from Natanya Riggs here. Richard, for a startup, how important would you say it is to network on and off social media, even though you may not have a website or other systems in place? Without question, you have to do both. Simple. And here's why. If you are online, you need to network, even if you don't have a website or system in place, because I didn't. When I started, I used Facebook Messenger and I used PayPal. I would send people a link. Oh, but you lose 5% in PayPal fees. Yeah, but it's simple and it's convenient. And so who cares about 5% when you get paid in a simple way? I don't have a bank account and Stripe accounts and all this stuff set up. And I got them after a little while, but to start with, it's intelligent just to do basic. So it's intelligent to go online because it is efficient, Latanya. It's efficient because you can work through dozens of people every day, engage with them, and some will be, it's fishing in a really good pond. Offline networking can be very good. And instead of being efficient, because it certainly isn't by comparison to online networking, offline networking is very effective. The difference is huge. Offline networking is phenomenal because the nuances you pick up from someone face to face are far more effective than those you get if you're just DMing them. The reason why I go live on a live stream as well as a podcast is because you get that much more flavor from someone if you can see them, expressing themselves. I do the podcast not because not because it's more effective than this at conveying my points, but it is more efficient because it can get to more people, because it offers convenience for those, for instance, walking in a car or commute. People don't always walk about watching videos, but what they do like to do is listen, because this is voice only. People can listen on the podcast, but this is effective by comparison in delivering a particular point. So I think that's the important way to look at it. The other thing as well, this is crucial, Latanya, is when it comes to offline networking, you really should be doing it at least once a month because it keeps your skills quick. And I think that it's stunning how you can lose your edge with engaging with people. And remember, like, your business is about people. It will be, because they're going to buy from you. You lose your edge so quick, or it's just not quite as tuned in if you're not engaging with people. Even if there is no networking event, you should go socialize, because it allows you to engage on that other level, and the deeper level, the nuanced level that person to person in real life actually can provide. If you don't have that, and this is the downside you see to being behind a computer all day long, for instance, or behind a phone, yes, you can generate income, but your networking ability won't be as effective as if you spend time engaging with people face to face. Okay, so I strongly believe that is one of the contributing factors for me building the Entrepreneur Business Live events, because I wanted to keep making sure I was seeing people every month, and that forces it. Shout out to everyone joining in here. So take it easy on Instagram. Nice to see you. Emma Martin, great to have you here. Thanks for coming in. Bitcoin Trader Miami, good to see you. Annie Sivalis, hello there as well. And Judd Laurie, photo video, and so on. And over on Facebook as well, Janine, Pat Chapman, hello, good to see you in NYC. Pat, if you're in New York City, 24th of January, go and check out Eventbrite or therichardmoore.com. You can see that there is the Entrepreneur Business Live event. I will be in New York. Be great to see you there. So hopefully you can make it. Joe Ailerman, hello. Christine, nice to see you here. Paul Conroy, Dato as well. Nice to see you here. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming in. Let's do a couple more questions, then we'll finish. We're talking about first steps in your startup today. Last one on here. We've got Daniel Nunez, who's asked, Richard, you have the domain, you have the logo, you have the network. What would you suggest to somebody transitioning from traditional employee mindset to do whatever it takes, entrepreneurial instinct? You can hone the instinct 100%. What you can do is say, right, and yes, Joe Elliman, we are live right now. This isn't pre-recorded. I'm live all over the place. So thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah, it is important to understand that it is a skill that you can hone. It is not DNA in your DNA that you are entrepreneurial. There's a lovely cliche, nice thing to say, oh, that person's got entrepreneurship in his DNA. No, it's a set of circumstances. It's 100% nurture. Everyone is born with the ability to be entrepreneurial. Richard Branson said that, I think, in Finding My Virginity. And he's absolutely right, because we're hardwired to be able to adapt and survive ourselves and things like that. And that's because we have entrepreneurial tendencies in the wild that we can, of course, use in business or whatever it might be. So without question, that can get, I'm not going to say beaten out of us, but we can get conditioned to a different mindset. One of, look, I don't have to be entrepreneurial because I'm safe in my bubble of a 9-to-5, where this transaction takes place, where I give up my time, talent, and effort in return for the safety net of a check each month, perhaps a bonus, so that I can, you know, pay for rent or mortgage and my family, so I can return. And then, of course, continue doing the same thing the following month. Is a noble thing. It is not for everyone to go run your own thing. But here's what I would suggest, because I'm a bit extreme, Daniel, but here's what I would suggest. What works for me is to say, right, or what worked for me, because I did it, is to say, I'm going to build my own thing. So I need to create some runway. So what I did was, whilst I was in my 9-to-5, I made sure I was working my face off to get more income in, because I was on the commission role as well as basic and bonus. But also I was saving up a bit as well, so I had some cushion. So I didn't have zero money when I left the job. I poured money into my mortgage, so that was considerably less to pay off, and I created a bit of savings. But what I did was I then went hard on external consulting. So I did some consulting as I was building my 9-to-5, and then I got the hell out of there. And I didn't get out of there to do part-time work a bit. I got fully out of there. And what that meant was I was now out in the cold on my own. When I'm out in the cold on my own, stuff happens to me, which is the hunger takes hold. And so you have to now react. And you can either go, oh, I don't like it out here, and then run back indoors. Or you can go, no, that door is closed now. It's that idea of burning your bridges, so your boats rather. So I can't remember who did it. I think it was, may have been Hannibal. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, some leader many hundreds of years ago sailed with his army across the sea to land and invade somewhere. And when they landed, they burnt all their boats so that they couldn't get back. They couldn't retreat. They had to go through. What I did was the same. I was like, right, so rather than kind of transitioning out from full-time to maybe a part-time job, sure, I was doing a bit in the evening of consulting work, but I was like, hand in the notice. It's done. Alexander, great, was it? Thank you very much. Take it easy. Good to have you here. What I did was I said, right, that's it. Get out of here and go. Just go. Just start. And when I was like, okay, I don't have any safety nets other than those that I construct myself. Because, you know, I had a wife who was a corporate lawyer, but she was now a mum at home. So I had a wife, mortgages, cars, and a baby, and like there's no salary. And so when there's no money, it's like, right, so go hunt now. And you're thrown into a place where you're like, suddenly there's no fluff. Suddenly the conversations need to be meaningful. suddenly you start realizing what you really need to live on rather than what you'd like to live on. So you don't need nearly as much as you want. Sometimes it's like, do you know what? No sleep tonight then. I bring this up a lot, but I remember very early on there was a point where it's like, right, I can't pay payroll, which means in turn things like nappies, sorry, or you got diapers if you're in America, totally, unless I get like, it was like by the end of the night, I think it was, or the end of the day or something, it was like, I need 1,000 quid. So I was like, so no sleep then. No sleep, because who's going to come and help you? I mean, I could ask family, but one rule I have is don't get in people's pockets, because then you owe them. Then you've got to owe them as well as yourself. And it was just like, so go through. And some people run away from that. I try my best to put myself in positions where I run towards that. If you can run towards that kind of hunger, what it does is it pushes you into positions where you have to be entrepreneurial, because you have to adapt or you're screwed. So I remember one of the series, couldn't be more a hero. Some of the things my mother did, such as when I was finishing university, she said, it was in a nice way, but it was like, essentially, you're not moving home, just so you know, you're not moving home. So you need to go get a job in a house. And that was fantastic. It was like, oh, okay, fine, I have to go and sort myself out. Things like that are really valuable because it moves you to a place where it's like, well, I have to do something right for me. I have to kind of fix things. And I remember her also saying, get yourself a nice flat. What she really meant was get a flat you can't afford. So I was on a pithy little basic because I was in a business that was quite small, mostly focused on commission. The basic I had would be laughed at anywhere in the country, but I was in London, so it was really hard. And I had a rent that was really basically almost every penny of the salary, if you like, or the kind of the basic wage I got each month was my rent. It went straight to my rent. That didn't cover food and bills. So the commission, it meant I had to close stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons why I did so well. I was like, there's no food unless I close stuff. So the desperation didn't work. So I had to be focused and that's why I put a lot of time against the job. So creating a situation where you have hunger is the way to do it. There's some really great people I've encountered along the way who are like, I'm just going to go to a place which is going to require me to get out of my comfort zone and go do crazy stuff because that's what I need to do. For instance, if my newer business, my events company, which has so much depth planned for it, it's not just Entrepreneur Business Live. There'll be a suite of corporate events because I was part of run a team in a corporate events company about 10 years ago. So it's going to have loads of other products to it, but it won't grow globally unless I go and do it. So, for instance, the New York event is costing me quite a lot of money because I have to get there, hotel for 2 nights as well, and I have to pay for it. You know, you can't hire stuff free, so I have to pay for it as well, and that has to be up front so that I have a date so I can market against it. And what I did is I say, right, pay for it all, and now you have to go find the money. And so that pushed me to go get sponsors. So we had our first sponsor sign up recently, Subtitle, who are going to be sponsoring the event with their second product, Wave, as well, for podcasts. And that was through necessity. I mean, sure, it's not so bad now. I mean, if I got no one to attend the event, it'd be a very expensive trip to New York for 3 days. But to pay it all, it's like so turn in a profit, Richard. And I think that's the way to do it. So put yourself in positions where that comfort moves you away from it. The problem I had when I started, to a degree, was I still had a traditional mindset in the sense that I had to be in the office at 9 o'clock in the morning. I thought, but I didn't. Flexibility is what is the biggest upside of running your own thing, because in many times of the day you can be very flexible. This morning I walked my daughters to nursery and school rather than hustling from 5 o'clock. I was actually doing things I wanted to do, and that's a nice thing about the flexibility. But at the same time, I was marginally more lazy back then because I did have more of my savings back then. So I was like, okay, I've got time. It's right. I just need a bit of a breather. But actually, I could have gone on with it a little sooner. So it's interesting. That's what worked for me. If you ask my opinion, that's what I would say. It's a few comments coming up here. Hello, Leandro, good to see you. Eric Eklund, nice to hear you, see you chime in. Thanks so much for watching. So Eric and I are on the panel in Geneva. So if you know anyone in Switzerland, let them know. It'd be great to speak to them if they can turn up. Christine, nice that you agree. Mona Nairi, hello, good to see you, about to go on your road trip. And Joe Alleman, where do you live? I'm in the UK, Joe. You can be the CEO of my startup concept. I'm a little busy, I'm afraid, but thanks very much for the offer. But you should be the CEO of your startup concept, because then you can get behind your passion. That's probably that might work better that way. And Laura, hello, good to see you as well. And I believe that Laura, you're going to be speaking in a few days' time in Entrepreneur Business Group on Facebook as well. Josh FX Pie on Instagram. If you read the pinned message, this live is about first steps for your startup. And welcome, thanks for joining us on episode 121 of Startup Business Q&A. However, this is the last question before we finish from Danny Battisil. We'll do this last one. How does a successful startup in our time create both a solid point of difference as well as a sense of urgency to buy? Good question. And Danny, you just started watching, so that's quite good timing. So the reason, what did you write under here? What are some saucy startup tips? Okay, I'll cover that in as well. But Danny, thanks for the 5 questions. So what does a successful startup in our time create? Or how does it create both a solid point of difference as well as sense of urgency to buy? Look, the point of difference typically is you and your keenness to engage with people or the delivery of what it is you do. Typically, there's not so many people out there with startups that are reinventing the wheel. If you look at people like Amazon in 1996 or whatever it was truly innovative was it 93? So it was really truly innovative to build something online like a bookshop. Right now it is not, but you can still do it. It's like being, if we just keep the trend going, it's like being an author. I can self-publish a book. No one's going to bother reading it because it's just another book, right? So differentiation's huge. It has to be that I, for instance, build an audience of people who are like, oh, wow, Richard Moore, I really like that guy. Wow, he's got a book, I will buy that then, for instance. And typically, you should, I think, default to the point of differentiation will be me first. And that doesn't mean that you just want it more. What it means is that you give more. So you give more attention to an audience, you deliver fully in your way, but you focus as much as possible on distributing your message and your vibe about what you're doing. It really, really matters. So the point of difference typically is they think you're a good guy. Okay, that matters a lot. If people think you're a bit of a douche, then it doesn't matter how great your product is, unless they happen to coincidentally be in the market for it, which is less than 10% by a long way kind of likelihood. So I think it's important to remember. Hello, Sally. Hello, Enrique. Give us a wave. Nice to see you. But I think it's important to remember that typically if you are going for it and being yourself and sharing yourself, for instance, like this, people will buy into you. Because here's the thing. They don't buy your product because they don't know if your product's any good yet. They're buying the experience, okay, with you, and the product is the souvenir of the experience or the promise or the potential of what they're going to get. I think that matters a lot. And what was the other point? As well as a sense of urgency to buy. Urgency is about a fear of, it's a case of buy now or lose out. There's a fear of missing something or not gaining something as a result of not purchasing. So the best natural urgency is appealing to an emotional sense of I would win in a certain way if I get something. And there's not too many wins in the world. They are basically look good, get more market share, maybe if you're commercial, save money, make money, save time. If you can do those things or offer those things or a combination of one or two of them, that is all there is to it, because that person will really feel strongly that they need to jump on it. And create exclusivity and scarcity and so on as well. That will really help. But those are the wins you need to focus on, not the features or the product, because no one cares. I said this, I think it was 2 weeks ago. If you're buying a Ferrari, you're buying the fact that you look good. It makes you look good. It helps you win more in life. It helps you get out of bed feeling successful. That's what you're buying. You're buying the feeling you get when you floor it and you feel, you know, the car going really quickly. You're not buying the Ferrari itself. That just happens to be the device. You're buying the cultural significance of the Ferrari. It's the same with an iPhone. The iPhone X, you know, the one with the funny notch thing on it, the latest phone, it's like $1,000. You're not buying the tech so much as buying the cultural importance of it. You're buying looking good. You're making a statement. I'm a creative type. I have an Apple rather than an Android. You're making a statement. I have lots of money. Look at me. I've spent $1,000 on a phone. I won't go any further because I'll start dissing Apple phones. David Potts, hope that helped. Ted Lazinski, good morning to you as well. Latanya Riggs, hello, and thanks so much for tuning in as well. So let's finish on this last one. And what are some saucy startup rich tips? Hashtag rich tips. Shivang, hello. To remind yourself of when you're tired, burnt out, and angry at humanity. How did you keep pushing on tough days? The thing is, what a lot of people want to hear when this kind of question comes out is some kind of fighting talk that makes you think, okay, come on, I'm gonna push myself, I'm gonna really attack it and things like that. You need to understand that whilst it's good to be impatient and push yourself, and you know, I hope I'm a good example of that. I strongly feel that if you can commit to the timeline across which you're going to generate success being your life, so the next, what have I got, maybe 50 years or so, then what it means is that you're then you can make peace with the idea that whilst you're going to push hard and be impatient and go for it, at the same time you can not write off a day, but you can just relax a little bit about the fact that maybe one day isn't as high in progress as the next. All is to say, if in terms of your startup, your day isn't as productive as or generating as much progress as it might, so get over it. What are you going to do? You've already had the day. So I think giving yourself a break is actually quite a good idea. It's really fashionable to talk about hustle and never giving up and things like that. But if you're having a shit day, you're having a shit day. Get over it. Just like it's a bad day. And I think that if you can recognize some progress somewhere, that's the win. Doesn't matter. And the progress for your day might be, I just closed a big deal. Great. Yesterday I just closed a big deal as well. But then the next day, if you don't close any deals and it all falls apart and you have a shit day, but you read something that had some meaning, or you created something, so you wrote a blog post, for instance, what you've just done is created some progress for yourself. And I think some progress matters. It doesn't matter if it's a large amount of progress or small amount of progress, it's still progress. I would be pissed off myself, and rightly so, if I've wasted a day completely. And that doesn't necessarily mean, if I'm going to be all kind of deep and meaningful, that it doesn't mean wasted a day in terms of generating no progress for my business. It may well mean wasting my day in terms of just doing stuff that's not helped me. If I got the gift of having a whole day and I've just done nothing at all of value, then and even up here, then that's a real bad idea. So do something, like even if you spend a bit of time sitting around thinking about stuff, that's a positive progress-based task, I feel. But I just think that if you're tired, burnt out, and angry, so stop. You're going to ruin the rest of your day. Stop. Go for a walk. If you're tired, have a rest. You know, because again, if you've got the entire day, you should act like you haven't got much time. I get it. But at the same time, you need to remember that if you're in it for the whole long run, it's cool. It's okay. And going back to that question that Daniel Nunes asked, you know, maybe you need to put yourself in a bit more of a danger zone, and that hunger will really wake you up perhaps a bit more as well. That might make a difference. Anyway, just finish up here. So David Potts, I really need to get going, but thanks very much. Glad to be here this morning. Good. Thanks very much as well, Danny Battisil over on Instagram. Is that Gary Keller, the one thing on your bookshelf? It is actually right over there, because why not? It's quite a good book, actually. But look, I want to say thanks to everyone for joining in. Thank you everyone on the podcast. Check out therichardmoore.com. Please hook up with me on Facebook, the Entrepreneur Business group, because we've got a lot of live streams starting there, and you can watch, of course, the events I'm at as well. But in the meantime, thanks very much to you guys in Instagram. I'm just ending the stream there. Thanks also to everyone on YouTube. And